Good evening, late afternoon, early evening. It might even be middle of the night somewhere for all we know. But super grateful for y'all for joining us this evening. I'm grateful to have Brandon Copeland here with us on this money management webinar. This is going to be a unique thing that we haven't done before. As you know, we do a lot of webinars. But this is the first time we've ever had a professional athlete who was also very interested in education and curriculum that we're also interested in. So excited for y'all to join us. We're going to kind of let people log in. When you get in here, there's a chat on your right-hand side. If you can go to that, let us know it's working. Why don't you let us know where you're from? Where are we chiming in here today from? We've got Boston. I'm interested to see who's the farthest away. Ontario, okay. Canada, New Zealand's going to take the cake on that, I think. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, that's nice right there.
Awesome. Nice. Brazil, we've got someone from Brazil. Thanks for joining us.
This is like AIM.
Awesome.
Ooh, Uruguay.
Yeah. So if you're new or you just logged in, we use the chat function a lot throughout the webinars. We'll do a live Q&A with Brandon at the end of his presentation. We're thinking the presentation will be about 25 or so minutes, and then we're hoping to get some pretty amazing Q&A with some actionable tips and insights from Brandon. So you'll actually use the same chat that you're typing all this in. Man, this is crazy. All these people, everyone coming in from all over the world. This is really cool. Singapore. Vijahe, I butchered that, but hey, thanks for joining us from Singapore. Use the chat for questions. Everyone who has registered and who's attending, in case you have to jump or leave, you can always leave and come back. We'll still be here if the recording is still going, and then we'll send an email out afterwards with the recording of this entire session. So if you have any other questions, just feel free to use the chat. I've got a couple of my colleagues who are going to help manage that with us. And yeah, so if we could pull up the poll that asks who we all are. So typically we do our webinars with instructors, either higher ed or high school. And so it'll be interesting to see how this kind of breaks down, because Brandon shared this. We employees here at Stukin have shared this. And so I don't know, Brandon, can you see the polls coming in? Can everyone see that? I think everyone can see it. So
yeah,
it's looking like if you're coming in and you're an other, take a scene from Lost, I guess. Why don't you chat in and let us know what industry you're in? If you're a practitioner, if you're a parent of a student, whatever that might be, it'd be cool to see where you're coming in from with that. Very awesome to see a lot of college students here. Yeah. So that'll be fun because Brandon, you teach college. So there we go. Okay. Without further ado, let's just jump right in. I'll give you a brief background of who we are. I'm Trevor Erickson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Stukin. Oversee all of our marketing efforts. We've been a digital courseware provider for almost 7 years now. And if you've taken any of our curriculum, it's probably been a digital marketing or social media marketing class. We've got the world's first digital marketing simulation and social media marketing simulation. And so that's probably what you know us from. Well, last year, we partnered with Brian Bean and his real world classroom model. That's a personal finance simulator, specifically for the high school audience. And we brought that into our platform and made it available to the world. And so that courseware is called Mimic Personal Finance. There's a link here. Go ahead and click that. If you're a teacher and you haven't had access or been able to see a demo of that, feel free to click that link, jump right in, For this year, you get free. You can jump on a free trial for you and your class. So take advantage of that for sure if you haven't done that yet. So that's Mimic Personal Finance. That's how we got in contact and became connected with Brandon. During this process last fall, I believe we just saw a video, or it might have been your CNBC interview we saw, and we thought, man, this guy is really cool, and his vision and mission off the field seems right in line with what we're trying to do here at Stukent in providing financial literacy to as many high school, I guess you could call it young adults, as we possibly can. And so connected with Brandon, he was excited to jump on and kind of share his story. And so that's what we're going to do here. I'll let Brandon take over and give his bio and a background and how he got to here in his life. But I think we're ready to rock and roll, Brandon. We still have people jumping in telling us where they're from, which is awesome.
Nice.
I believe Brian Bean is also in the chat. So any questions about Mimic Personal Finance, feel free to start the conversation here, but you definitely take it offline. Brandon or Brian is more than willing to hop on a call, or we have a private Facebook group you can join as well. So Brandon, we ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it. Let's do it. You can hear me well?
Yeah.
Sure.
Everyone, thumbs up if we can hear Brandon. I can hear you, so I'm pretty sure everyone else can.
All right. Colton, good job first. All right. So again, my name is Brandon Copeland. I am just going to dive right in. I'm very excited for this. First and foremost, I think that this is very cool what Stukent has put together here, and allowing, when I got into financial literacy, what I really wanted to do was make my alma mater, University of Pennsylvania, just to start. And ultimately, this is a topic that affects us all, right? So how do we share knowledge, share information, share stories, good and bad, that can ultimately help iron sharpen iron? I've made mistakes in my own financial life. I'm probably still making mistakes at this point. There are no right or wrong answers, but the tragedy is when I don't share those positive and those negative mistakes, and then ultimately some of you end up making the same mistakes. That's just pointless, right? So when I originally started this class, it was to push the conversation forward, and we'll dive into my story, but thank you all for attending. So who am I? Professionally, obviously, I'm a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. Went to the Wharton School of Business. From Baltimore, Maryland, originally, as my hometown. I used to say go Ravens, but clearly I'm a New York Jet, so that is my team, right? I'm starting linebacker for the New York Jets currently. I also own 2 real estate companies, one that specializes in flips, one that specializes in rentals. We do stuff in Detroit, Michigan. That I played for the Detroit Lions for 3 years. So we initially started doing stuff there because it was easier for me to keep my eyes on it. And then we also do stuff in my hometown of Baltimore, Maryland. This spring, we are trying to actually get stuff into New Jersey area. So again, I can be nosy and keep my eyes on it a bit easier. And there's also just great opportunities there. So I'm also the co-founder of Beyond the Basics, Inc., which is my wife and I, our nonprofit, our public charity, our foundation. We specialize in doing, we specialize in helping kids realize their potential through exposure to opportunities. We're very hardworking individuals. However, that hard work will be lost if we didn't have the right people in our lives to say, hey, look at this. Hey, you can go to this school. Hey, do you know your hard work can get you this career, this opportunity? So we want to actually do that for the kids that we come across and make a impact that can have a ripple effect on their entire lives. Our next event, shameless plug, is at the Barclays Center on Saturday, March 21st. We're throwing a charity celebrity basketball game with a bunch of athletes, entertainers, rappers, etc. But we're literally opening the doors for a lot of kids and people who otherwise couldn't afford to come to the Barclays. We're giving away free tickets. We've already given away over 4,000 tickets thus far and counting. I am a broadcast a speaker, and event host. I'm also a UPenn adjunct professor on a class that I've nicknamed Life 101. The school, as a lot of you instructors and professors know, the school wanted a more official title, but I call it Life 101 because ultimately these financial literacy topics, these money topics are things that we all deal with in life. I call them constants of life: how to buy a house, your credit, budgeting, investing, and we just don't talk about them. So I call it Life 101 because that's what it is. Boom. Personally, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a Christian. My favorite food is wings, chicken wings, buffalo wings, blue cheese, never ranch. My favorite rapper is J. Cole. So you know, the all of these things will make sense, but personally, I wanted to let you all know a bit about myself. You can see my son over there playing with his feet. Anybody have tips on getting him to sleep through the night? Feel free to put it in the chat because he's about to get kicked out of the house if he keeps this up. So who are you? I give you my background because again, when we talk about financial literacy, a lot of people think about my class and they think we're specifically talking about money. And I've been teaching this course this is in the middle of my second year teaching it, again, at the University of Pennsylvania. And I had a huge revelation last year as you put in all the research and all the time to perfect your lectures, perfect your messages, perfect your delivery. You ultimately understand that, I came to the revelation that the real things that matter that we should be talking about when we're talking about money are your why. Is your why, your personal why, right? And so when you talk about who are you, this is an exercise that we actually do every single class to help our students build their own self-esteem and their own confidence. We literally make students get up and introduce themselves to someone they've never met in the room, and literally as the semester goes on, you see students go from having, I might give them a minute and a half to talk about their strengths, and I might give them a minute and a half to talk about the biggest failure they've ever had in their life. Whatever it is, I'm throwing them freestyle questions. And ultimately what you see is in the beginning of the semester, you give kids a minute and a half, they might go for 45 seconds and then it's quiet. And I always have to challenge people, don't tell me you can introduce yourself in just 45 seconds. You can sum up your entire life in just 45 seconds, right? And what you see as the semester goes on and progresses is now they get a little closer to that minute and a half, and then eventually they're overtime and just talking. And then you got to kind of get their attention back. But you're building their self-esteem, you're building their confidence, and ultimately what that is also doing is building their willingness and ability to talk about money, talk about their vulnerabilities, go into an interview without being trained up, but being able to talk about, hey, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about strengths, my weaknesses, etc. And these are all comfortable topics. So our class, this Life 101 class, is just as much of a self-esteem, confidence building class as it is a money class. It's not just numbers. It's also about feeling good and being able to have your shoulders back and talk confidently about your mistakes, your successes, and all of those types of things. So I would challenge you all to examine those questions within yourself. And then if you are teaching this, / also if you just are doing this and curious about money and your own financial well-being, financial wellness, your financial freedom, I would challenge you all to ultimately understand your why. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. Boom. So for the instructors and for the students out there, and I apologize because I'm talking to both of you, so I want to make sure, and I'm talking to everybody, I want to make sure that you all get what you ended up taking this time out of your life to listen to me for. I want to make sure you get out of it what you're looking for. So please feel free to put those types of things in the chat. But while we're going, when we're talking about Life 101, which other people have dubbed as financial literacy, the ultimate goal is not to be some master financial guru and, oh, I'm gonna be the next Warren Buffett. The ultimate goal is for us to leave this classroom, leave this course, leave this research, and to make more confident money/life decisions. An example of this, I remember my wife and I, we bought our first house. We live in New Jersey currently. We bought this house. We eventually plan on turning this into a rental, right? We're forward thinking, but it was our first house where it's ours, right? It's first purchase, big purchase. And I was in season at the time. I was in Detroit, but I went back on the bye week for the home inspection. But ultimately, when my wife closed, she was literally at the realtor's office closing by herself. And I remember she said, "Hey, you know, does everything look okay in this contract?" They had emailed me a copy of it beforehand. Does everything look good? Am I okay to sign? And I'm like, I don't know. It looks good to me, but you got this big stack of papers, and this is my first time ever seeing some closing documents. I don't really know the right questions to ask. I remember walking through the house, and the house looked good. It didn't look like it was about to fall over. So, hey, like, I guess, I'm not sure if they're sneaking something in there right now. And so to make a major life decision, right? First major loan, major debt that's tied to my name and her name, and to be shaky about it is pretty absurd when you think about it in terms of all the schooling that we've had over our lives. So what I tell people and what I tell my students is there are no right or wrong decisions, because everyone's financial situation and financial makeup is different, right? Sometimes it might make sense to invest in my 401k right now. Sometimes, hey, if I try to invest in my 401k, well, I can't pay my light bill next month, right? So the goal is really to be able to walk away from a life decision, a major life decision, a major money decision, and just be confident and not feel like you've just made a big mistake, or potentially could have made a big mistake because you didn't know or were unaware of all of the information that you should have or should know. So that's my goal for my students when they leave my classroom. We don't have the time to coach you through every single potential situation that you have, because this is life. There's so many different things that will pop up and can pop up. Our goal is for you to arm you with tools, to treat you almost like Batman or Batwoman, and arm you with that utility belt, so that now in this situation, okay, hey, I remember this, I can probably pull one of these three options. Or now I know I should probably research something about this, because I remember hearing about a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA in class, right? We've spent so much time in school, and when I pitched this to the University of Pennsylvania, I said, you taught me about the tangent of a 45-degree angle. However, you didn't tell me how, you didn't teach me anything about my credit. I don't know why it's down, right? I don't know why it's up. I don't know what's going into it. You didn't teach me how to buy a house. You didn't teach me buying versus leasing a car. All of these types of things that I have to deal with. And again, the biggest pitch of all is whether you're an engineer student, a nursing student, a business student, a lawyer, a doctor, etc. We all have to deal with this. We all have to deal with these constants of life, as I call them. So understand, as a teacher, your goal is to just make more confident money life decisions. As a student, your goal is to, again, as a teacher, your goal is to get your students to feel confident in their money or life decisions. As a student, your goal is to be able to walk away from this class and just feel more confident in the major life decisions that you make. Again, they might not always be perfect. You might look back and be like, well, I still wish I would have done X or Y. But ultimately, you won't look back like, well, if I would have only known, or if we would have only had a conversation about 401ks, maybe I would have started contributing to it much sooner rather than later. This slide is, again, kind of going into what I just went into about what my course objectives truly are. Just making confident money decisions, helping you be comfortable with money decisions, and ultimately, achieving your why if you haven't already done so. And again, we'll get into the why now. So as I jump into this, last year, giving you all a quick story. So I remember we had a whole class on retirement investing, and I had a guest speaker come in, and he's actually one of my former college football teammates who he does medical device sales now. And, you know, he left a very fun, entertaining job in the entertainment business that a lot of people would covet. And ultimately, he left it for medical device sales for his own personal financial freedom, gain, and his own why. And so we're talking through this course, and my guest speaker is giving a bunch of reasons of why you should be disciplined and save money. And you know, I'm saving up for, you know, my fiance and the life we want to have, and the house that I eventually want to buy, and then my generational wealth, my kids. I want them to be set and all that stuff. And then I give my whys. I'm like, listen, I don't need a bunch of jewelry. These are my change. You get these on Amazon for $12. This is $14 on Amazon. That's, you know, I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses. Ultimately, I'm playing the long game. And then one of my students raises their hands and he says, you know, I just, you know, I really want all of my friends to be able to enjoy the finer things in life with me. And so I want to be able to buy us all first class tickets and buy us jewelry and go to the club and get tables and stuff like that. And at first I was literally just looking at him like, did you just miss the entire lecture? What is wrong with you, man? What are you doing? Right? Luckily I didn't say that. But at that point in time, I had a whole out of body experience that literally just kind of shook me awake. And it said, who am I to tell him what his why is? Who am I to tell any of you the reason why you choose to save money or live the way you do or to spend money, right? Ultimately, your why is your why, and that's okay. But your why is what keeps you on whatever track you choose to, so that you can reach your why in the long term. And when I tell people to examine their why, I want you to really, really think about what you are chasing specifically. Is it financial freedom? Is it nice cars? Oh, well, do you want the nice cars because you genuinely want the nice cars, or do you want the nice cars because everyone in your neighborhood has Mercedes Benz or whatever car, insert car name here? Do you feel the pressure that you have to have a nice car to have a certain status, right? Ultimately, we all need to examine and understand our whys, because when you look at the makeup of the world and you look at, for a lot of us, we've been working our entire lives to create and earn money, right? It's, you know, it's not all about money, but a lot of us, okay, I want to go to school. Why? Well, I want to have a decent job one day. Okay, well, why do you want a decent job? Well, because the decent job will probably pay me X amount of dollars. Okay, cool. Well, so you've been, somehow or another, something is looped back to money. And ultimately, when you're making this money and you don't understand what you're actually chasing or what you're putting it towards, you don't have any spectrum uh, or vision plan for yourself on why in those tough moments you need to save or be disciplined or whatever it may be. A lot of us are wise based off of the things that we see on Instagram or our friends doing. And when you look at the financial makeup of the world, a lot of us aren't in the strongest financial situations. And one of the things I tell, using the football analogy, I tell to high school students that, hey, Cope, I want to get to the NFL. How do I do it? Well, first and foremost, that's your vision for yourself. You want to be this far on this football track. If you're around people who don't want to be that far, they don't want that financial freedom, they don't want what you want, their whys don't add up to yours, don't think that you can do what they do and reach your destination, right? So for a high school student, don't think that if you want to be in the NFL and everybody is running 500-yard sprints, if you want to be in the NFL and they just want to be the best player on their varsity football team, you need to be running more sprints than them to get where you're trying to go. And so again, understanding your why is what will ultimately help you look around the room and be like, okay, I'm on the right track. Okay, hey, everybody's going to for University of Pennsylvania students, especially Wharton business school students. A lot of people are going on that finance track. Everyone's going to New York out of college, and okay, well, everyone's going to New York out of college. So, I see my buddy buying this apartment, so I must be able to afford this apartment as well because we both went to UPenn and we both are working in finance. It doesn't really work like that, right? What is your buddy's why? Has your buddy broken down the average rent costs of New York City? Have they broken down? Do they understand taxes? Do they understand all of these little costs that will end up chipping away at your budget? And do they have the same amount of student loan debt that you do, right? So understanding your why will ultimately help you shape what you need to do to reach your end goal. On this slide you see below, as an educator of this stuff, the biggest thing you can do is create a conducive learning environment. These things, when I'm in the classroom, we're trying to have a conversation. These topics are very, very sensitive because some people, we've been taught to feel stupid if we don't already know some of this stuff when really no one's ever taught us this stuff. And some people don't come from backgrounds where they would be able to talk about stocks or talk about retirement investing, right? Some people, we're really just trying to make it to next month and keep the lights on and keep our house and keep from being kicked out of our house, right? The flip side of that, I've also seen people who are coming from great financial backgrounds and wealthy backgrounds, and they just don't talk about these topics with their parents or mentors and stuff. And sometimes we've had situations where our students receive pushback from their parents because they're asking them questions prompted by our homework assignments, and their parents are like, well, why are you asking me about my retirement plan? Like, it's getting a little weird right now, right? So create a conducive learning environment, create a conversation, create a non-judgmental zone. Your goal as an educator in this is to spark an interest in understanding why this information matters, right? Why my money, why this budgeting stuff matters, because it's not to just share horror stories, but your goal is to pique their interest so that then when they leave the classroom, they're going to want to research this stuff themselves and be in a better situation. That makes me jump to the flip side of, as a student, understand that you will have to put work into obtain the information specific to you. Your professor, your teacher is not going to be able to teach you exactly what you need for your personal situations and your personal life course. That is why the educator's job is to spark this interest and to give you a general understanding of how these things work. And then as a student, it's on you to go ahead and put in the extra research. Now I have a track line, and now I can put in the extra research and seek out things that are specific to me, or seek out the people who can help me understand the things that are specific to me. Flipping back over to the educator side, the extra credit, encourage sharing. Again, I started this webinar with it. The biggest thing we want to do is share. You can learn so much from people, and you can learn so much to help yourself just by talking about these things. I've been in rooms with thousands of people, and I've said, hey, half of us are probably making the same mistake financially right now. And literally all it takes is a few of us, one of us, to share it, and then we all will probably alleviate that mistake from our lives. So keep that in mind. One of the things we do is we make our final exam is we literally at the college level, we make the college students teach this material to high school students. So if you can teach it on a high school level, one, you probably have a very good grasp and understanding of this, but then two, and more importantly, you feel comfortable enough to teach this to your cousin, your mother, your sister, family member, neighbor, etc. And again, we're just encouraging that sharing. A lot of people are taking our class because they want their parents to be in better financial situations. And so making sure that your kids feel comfortable talking about it and being vulnerable, but also being a positive source of information is ultimately creating a ripple effect for your classroom and your time as an educator. Last thing, as a student, examine your why, which I've spoken about, is also as an educator, just anybody in their financial journey, examine your why, examine what you're doing this for, understand your vision, your North Star. That vision and North Star will help you maintain focus as you go on this life course, because again, you can't plan for some of these things that happen along your financial journey. Story time, and this will be really quick because I want to get to questions and things like that. My first real estate investment, just giving you an example of why this stuff matters. One of my first real estate investments, there was a young lady buying a house, and I had invested into the house. I was going to get paid back once the house was sold. House was under contract for 30 days. No one told this young lady that you cannot go out and buy or touch your credit at all while you're closing a house. So now she went out and bought a car. She goes back to the bank in the middle of this 30-day period and says, hey, ready to close. Whoa, your credit just changed. Oh, you took on some more debt. You can't afford this house anymore. We're not giving you this house. What? So now if someone would have told her, then she probably could have waited until after she closed on the house and then did what she wanted. But ultimately now this young lady, her life track is off because she literally, no one talked to her, no one told her. She didn't have my class or the class that you all are teaching on financial literacy to tell her, hey, do not touch your credit while you're buying this house. So what does that do to her life? What is that ripple effect, right? Now she's thrown off track by a few years over a simple conversation, whether it's the realtor, whether it's the bank who's lending the money. Of course, the car dealership wouldn't tell her because they just want to sell the car. So again, the stuff that we're doing really has a huge life effect. And when you think about the mental health issues that a lot of us are seeing in the media right now, and a lot of us are actually dealing with, not that it all stems to money, but I think that there is a correlation between not being where you want to be financially, or not being as confident as you want to be in your financial situation, and that the effect over time that takes on you, on your mental wellness. And so if we can alleviate some of that just by little conversations, right, or this type of class, how amazing would that be? Boom. So we'll open it up for Q&A. Another really quick story, but I will save that during Q&A because I think it might actually pop up. And I'm just clicking back over to the chat and seeing what you guys are doing. So
cool. Right. So we've got a list of questions here for you, Brandon. Lots of chat went on throughout your presentation. Good conversation happened there. First question for you. How did you balance school and football and life, being a collegiate athlete and then a professional athlete? I think a lot of people on this webinar with us, although we may not be a professional athlete, but there's other things going on in our lives as well that might distract us from making smart financial decisions. So how did you balance all of that? Maybe some habits that you formed, or, things like that.
Yeah. So that's a very, very good question. In college, it was a lot simpler, to be quite honest with you. I think that you prioritize and you prioritize the things that mean a lot to you. I'm fortunate enough right now, as you see the list of different things that I do and I work on a day-to-day basis. I'm fortunate that no one's forced me to do anything, right? And all these things that I'm doing, I have asked to do. And so, I take that into mind when I am tired or am bogged down. And so first and foremost, I prioritize. And there's certain things that we know have to get done. And they're for you, and then there's other things that, like, okay, where they're for someone else, and that, not that that means it's less of a priority, but how I need to make sure I tackle the things that are going to push me further or closer to that why that I was talking about earlier before I do anything else. And so organization is huge. Compartmentalization is also huge, right? I'm flipping houses in season while also playing football. If I'm on the field against Tom Brady on Monday Night Football thinking about the kitchen I'm trying to design, it's not going to end well, right? So compartmentalization. When I'm here, right? The rest of the stuff will be okay. Also understanding, finally understanding again, when you are ripping and running your race, you have to be selfish to be selfless. And again, I have a foundation. Like I said, we do some amazing things in the community. I ultimately know and understand that if I don't take care of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, then a lot of those things don't happen. So I cannot sacrifice the whole ecosystem for one thing that might be distracting from the bigger picture, right? I can't sacrifice my workouts, right? Like, we're doing this webinar and I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida right now training. I wish I was in a much, you know, beautiful office for you all, but ultimately my primary goal and job is the NFL. I need to be down here, and ultimately that leads to me helping kids. It leads to my why, my family's help, being a professor. All of these types of things stem from that, and so you have to take care of you first. So again, sometimes to be selfless, you have to be selfish.
Question. Um, how do you get through the tough parts of not wanting to actually put in the work? It's a pretty honest question.
Yeah, very honest.
But yeah, how do you break through that?
Yeah, so that's the why. One, so that's a different question. That's a really good question. So I think your why is your North Star, right? But ultimately being comfortable with your motivation changing to get you to that North Star. So years ago, my motivation was X, right? And now I am comfortable. After a month, you're like, well, I'm not really trying to get X anymore. What do I want to do? Like, X doesn't really push me through a workout anymore, push me to get through this work when I'm tired anymore. But what is it? I am comfortable with my motivation changing to help me get to my why. So sometimes my motivation is simply music. I have different playlists for different times, literally. Sometimes my motivation is looking at videos of my 7-month-old son. Sometimes motivation is looking at pictures of my wife, right, and my family and the life that we're trying to build together. Sometimes motivation is all the people that told me no. If you came to my football camp this year in Baltimore, you saw quotes around the camp and comments from negative things that were said about me. Oh, you'll never make it in this league. Oh, he's too fat, too slow to make it in this league. I've lost a little bit of weight since then. But, ultimately, sometimes those are the things that motivate me to keep going, right? And so, again, being comfortable with your motivation, switching and changing. So now, okay, hey, this music isn't getting me through this right now. Ooh, okay, well, maybe this will. And kind of using that to power you through those moments, those low times.
Just for a second, like this question. As a sports management and business finance major, what advice would you give to someone trying to get into player representation?
Oh, sports management, business finance major. Okay. Advice I would give to someone trying to get player representation, or
Trying to get into player representation
trying to get
as a
into
career.
Okay. What I would tell you is, I would tell you it's very, very hard, but I would tell you to be true to understanding that a player can be more than just their sport. I'm an undrafted free agent from the University of Pennsylvania, and right now I'm making more money off the field than on the field. But not a lot of agents would be happy with that because they want your primary focus to be on the field. So understanding that, hey, if I keep this person's holistic self in mind, then I can ultimately help him or her amplify their platform and their reach. And understanding that the player representation is not only about the dollars and contracts. It is, partially about that. I won't shy away from that. But ultimately, there's a lot of untapped potential in these players that agents are missing out on because they only call you when it's contract time, or they only call you when it's money time. Some of them, and so I would say encouraging your players and people to take an interest in them, especially in the off season, is huge, and it's a thing that a lot of these agents don't do.
How do you convince high school students in today's quick access to banking online that it is still important to reconcile checking accounts?
Oh, gotcha. Great question. Ask that one more time so I can make sure I'm answering it. Right.
So how do you convince a high school student in today's world of just having quick access to banking online that it's still important to reconcile a checking account?
Gotcha. Okay. So your checking account is your transaction account. It is what you use on a day-to-day basis. Your online savings account or the high yield savings account is what I'm assuming that you're referring to. That's your emergency fund, your liquid money that you just are banking up and saving, and you're just making sure is gaining the highest interest rate possible. But you need that checking account for not specifically for bill pay and stuff like that, because you can also do that from a high yield savings account. But that checking account is your transactional account, your day-to-day basis. And again, it won't hurt you to have that checking account. I'd also say another piece of advice off of that is just as early as you can, what I would do is get you a student credit card with a very, 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 very low minuscule limit, right? $100, $200, something where it's like, hey, if I've gone too far on this, I don't mess up my entire life, right? I don't think there would be too many banks with your first credit card that will give you a enormous limit. However, doing stuff like that can making sure you're making the payments on time. Now you're setting yourself up with a credit history. So now when you go into college or you leave college and need to make that first big purchase, you have a strong credit card history. So I would say the credit card history and the checking account go hand in hand. And again, you want to be able to write. I personally enjoy being able to write a check still to some people, and you can't do that with a savings account.
Question that we've had come in a couple times. Is there a popular piece of financial advice that you disagree with?
Yeah, I just saw that and I was popped up. Yes. So I think that there have been, I'm trying to answer this as politically correct as possible. Just kidding. I don't really care about that. I think that there's the biggest piece of advice, the whole save 50, live off of 30 and invest 20%. I hate that piece of advice. I literally cannot stand that piece of advice. When I started doing this class last year, and obviously being a football player, there was a lot of media who came into the classroom, and literally as soon as they put a microphone in my face, it was like, give them a tip. Hey, why don't you say save 50%, live off 30, invest 20? And I'm like, no, I will never say that. One, because there's some people, again, not every check is the same. Not everyone's financial situation is the same. And a lot of times when you hear these numbers, now you're searching and reaching for these numbers, and it might not be plausible for you and your life and what you need to do. Imagine the person who's trying to save 50%, but guess what? If I look at my check and if I try to save 50%, again, I cannot keep the lights on. I can't make my car payment this month. And so now when people hear that type of advice, they literally, oh, this piece of advice doesn't apply to me. I'm not listening to anything else you say. And that I think has been a big bottleneck in the spread of financial literacy teaching. It doesn't mean that steps 2, 3, and 4 have no merit. It just means that this percentage thing or this numbers thing is cookie cutter advice and these things aren't one size they aren't one size fits all. So what I do tell people in regards to that is you need to track your expenses first and foremost. You need to know how many pennies are leaving your house on a monthly basis. From doing that, then you are literally able to take a snapshot of your expenditures. You know where money is going, and then you can make decisions based off of that. Okay, hey, I want to save up a little bit more to get closer to my why. I want to save up a little bit more because I want to buy a car at the end of this year. Well, I know, for example, and it's funny because my wife and I are going through this. I called Optimum Cable today. I spend $179.12 per month on cable. I guess a promotion just ended after 3 years with them, and my bill jumped to $200.12. I wouldn't notice it or know it unless I was tracking that type of stuff every month. It's not that we're literally sitting behind the desk with a piece of paper every single month and, oh, whoa, where'd that penny go, right? But I have some general idea, okay, hey, that just jumped up. Why did it jump up? I'm literally looking at my house. Hey, did you order a movie? You know, but ultimately knowing that. And so now I know, okay, if I really want to save up an extra $100 a month, I know that personally through real estate, I know that I can buy a Wi-Fi router for $59.99 a month, no contract or anything like that, just monthly lease. And then we can just get Netflix or get Hulu or whatever it may be. And I can save $100 right there by doing that. My wife Taylor, she wants cable, so we still have cable. But ultimately, at least I know, at least I have a chance. So that's how I answer that question.
So here's what I think a lot of folks on here, especially younger generation students, have had. The saying, it takes money to make money. What would be some simple ways where those who may be just starting out, who don't have a lot of money, that they can do? What are some things that they can do to go make their money work for them on a smaller budget?
Oh, great question.
You mentioned, saving on certain bills. I mean, I think that's something that obviously they can start doing there, but maybe there's some additional tips or things that you've seen other people do that are working.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it comes down to you and your discipline. I think first and foremost, you have to look at, if you're, okay, I have a why, and this is a goal I'm trying to get to. Does my lifestyle match up with that goal, right? There's a lot of people, I mean, we can all think to ourselves. There's a lot of people who are telling you, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you look at what they're doing and you're like, well, that doesn't really add up to X or Y, right? And so it does, I would say it does take money to make money. And I had that revelation a few years ago when I had a rental property and we had a pipe burst. And I was able to foot the bill, get the pipe done. And I found out that my lender, the bank, didn't execute my insurance contract. And so I was literally in this house without insurance. And fortunately, months later, the bank said, hey, we were wrong on this. We told you we were going to execute this contract when you closed. We didn't. And so 4 months later, we'll give you this money back and make you whole. Well, not a lot of people can ride that wave for 4 months without being able to fix the problem initially when it starts. And so that for me was the biggest slap in the face of like, okay, sometimes, yeah, it does take money to make money. I would look at your lifestyle and say, okay, hey, am I living below my means to reach this goal, right? Whatever your means are. It's not that you got to just start living under a bridge, right? But it just more means like, okay, I want to save more to invest a little bit each month. Well, I go out every weekend and I end up buying 3 drinks for my friends in New York City, which ends up being $60. Okay, well, maybe I should just avoid trying to go out every weekend, go out 2 weekends, right? That right there saves me $120 for the month. Now I can buy a couple stocks with that, right? So again, I think that the biggest thing you can do is take a look at your own life and lifestyle and figure out where I can create savings in there. Ultimately, again, when I talk about understanding your why, understand the different things that I am doing. Am I doing those for me, or am I doing those to keep up with my friends or the people that are around me? So am I buying this jacket because, oh, I saw one of my best friends get a jacket like that. Okay, now I'm kind of, it's a little out of my price range, but we're all going out next week. I don't want to look out of place, and so go ahead. Let me swipe the card. So again, I think examining your own why will help you live a disciplined life to help you reach those goals, and just being honest with yourself. One of the things my grandfather used to always say is like, hey, he would tell me, hey, Cope, I'm never going to lie to you. I can't lie to you. It's like lying to myself. And what sense does that make? So making sure that you're always honest with yourself about, okay, hey, I am doing too much right now.
A lot of questions coming in about student loans. I think,
Yep.
Brandon, to be respectful of your time and everyone else's, we'll probably do like one or two questions. And then there's a bunch of questions that are still in the queue. Maybe we can just send those over to you. And if you've got time, maybe it's Instagram story, answer this question type of thing. And we can direct people to go follow you on Instagram and check those out. But at least send those questions over to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Does that seem about right? Maybe 5 more minutes of Q&A?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy doing this, so we can take as much time as you want, to be quite honest. So yeah, let's go.
Okay. Student loans. Tips for paying student loans off.
See, if you followed me already, you would have seen that I posted to my story about this. Our very last class was on student loans. It's open to the public too. It's in Philly. This week's class is open to the public as well. It's on real estate, how to buy a house, cost of renting, and investing. So open to the public at University of Pennsylvania. Follow me at bcope51. I'll let you know the classroom. But student loans. So tips for student loans. Paying those off. First and foremost, one of the biggest ones is if you are working in public service, government, you might actually be eligible for a student loan forgiveness program. For the student loan forgiveness program, which means you have to make 120 full payments or 10 years of payments, and literally the rest of your debt is wiped out. You have to see if you're eligible, but a lot of people don't know that exists. And so until you're enrolled in the program, that number doesn't start, that clock doesn't start. So that's one. Two, see if you can refinance your loans. So a lot of these loans are given out at very high interest rates. One of our students from last year, she actually wrote a note back to the class this year that we just read to them or showed them on Monday. And she talked about how her original student loan interest rate was 11.2%. And so literally the first thing she did once she graduated was refinance her student loans. And then now it's down at 4%. And then she's literally been living below her means, and she's paid off $20,000 worth of student loan debt in 6 months. Like she said at the end of the letter, I really wish I could tell you I was done. Still have more to go. However, again, refinancing that is a simple way to lower your interest rate payment. If you have multiple student loans at different interest rates, one, you try to refinance and bundle it into one, which would be great. One lower interest rate, which would be great. If you can't, then what you need to do, what I suggest you do, is you make the minimum monthly payments on them all, but that highest interest rate loan or debt, you attack that one first. Like you put more on that one and try to get rid of that one first, because you're ultimately, if you're putting more on the 4% loan and less on the 11% loan, then you're losing that spread every single month. You're losing money. But if you put more on that 11% loan, then guess what? You're it's not that you're making money, but you're getting rid of that. You're tackling that debt faster. Another one. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. Another one. What you want to do? Oh, exactly. That's exactly what I was just about to talk about, Brian. Another one that you want to do is you want to make, if you can, make more than the monthly payment on the principal. So you can Google this at any time and just say, hey, what is the extra payment on my mortgage or loan, the extra payment loan math, and it'll walk you through what extra $10 each month can do on the principal, extra $25, extra $100, extra full payment, and literally you can take your loans and decrease them. Like, again, the young lady who graduated from our class last year, she was supposed to be done paying her loans at 2029. Right now, because she's doing the extra payments, she's scheduled to be done paying her loans in 2022, right? That is a drastic difference and a lot of money saved on interest. So keep that in mind.
Awesome. Credit card versus debit card. Wow. When do you advise to use either or? Are there certain purchases or services that you choose to go debit versus credit on?
Yeah, there's not really any rhyme or reason for me personally. So, ultimately, I'm not spending anything, and I'm in a pretty good financial situation. But I would say, and so I'm very transparent and honest about that. I don't spend any money that I don't have. So, for me, the credit and the debit card are literally the same thing. Credit, obviously, you're gaining potential uh, points, not points, but you're gaining history on your credit and stuff like that. But I would say, just generally, I wouldn't be swiping the credit. I would try to limit your swipes to the debit card. If you, I would not swipe the credit card so much that I go into major debt if I can avoid it, right? Once you get to the point of you're okay, hey, I'm debt free, I'm ready to take on the world, so to speak. At that point in time, don't go into further debt with your credit card. Only swipe payments that you have the money to pay for, and that will be clearly in an ideal world. I know it's not that easy for everyone. However, that's just kind of my own experience. Yeah.
Okay. Two more questions. Do you have any podcasts, books, resources that you suggest for those of us who want to go learn more about personal finance?
Yeah. Favorite. My favorite book. My favorite personal finance book. My favorite book is probably Harry Potter. But my favorite personal finance book is Banker's Code. The Banker's Code. It's actually a free online PDF. So, pro tip right there. Don't even have to pay for it. Financial Literacy 101. Google it. But the Banker's Code, I think, really unlocks and gets you thinking about money in a different way. It makes you start to question the velocity of money. And originally, when I started trying to create these multiple streams of income, I always wanted to become the bank. Be the bank. The bank is always winning. The bank is always winning. And so I read the Banker's Code, trying to understand the bank better. And ultimately, what it made me think about is how much of a business banks are, and how much of a how we've been trained to always rely on banks, rely on banks, rely on banks. And it's funny with another player earlier today, he plays with the Eagles. We were training, and one of the things we were talking about is, like, if you go into a bank right now to take out your own money, sometimes, depending on how much you're trying to take out, they're going to put a limit on you. You're like, what? How are you putting a limit? This is my money, right? Or sometimes if you want to go to the bank and you or sometimes you want to go to the ATM and clearly there's out of network and all of those little different things, but now you're charging me a fee to take out my money, or I'm getting a mortgage on my house and you're charging me money to use my money, right? And clearly there's some people who aren't, you're being loaned money, so it makes sense. But I would really say read that book because it definitely helps you think differently about the velocity of money, and then also about, okay, what can I do to become the bank and not be taken advantage of by the banks and these interest rates and all that type of stuff? How can I pay myself first and even become the bank for myself?
I think your next slide has some contact information. A couple questions came in about if they're in your area, do you have a like a contact form or something for speaking events? So is there something there that we can send people to? Maybe your website, BrandonCopeland.com, or is that where we should send people to right here? Yep.
Exactly. Yep. Go to BrandonCopeland.com. There's a contact form on there. It's one of the best ways to reach out to, whether it's a speaking event or just saying hi or anything like that. Also, my social media at bcope51. I'm always posting little tips or things or takeaways from my class. Also, we have open classes to the public, literally Ivy League classroom open to anyone. And so I also post about that and saying, hey, it's going to be this day, this time, this location. Our next one is this Monday, 4:30 to 7:30 at the University of Pennsylvania. I just need to figure out the exact location. So we have to get a bigger classroom for our open classes, clearly. So that's what we're waiting on.
For those open classes, do you guys stream them at all? Online?
We're working on that. We're working on that. Maybe we'll work with Stu-Kent to make that happen.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. If we've got a stream, we'd for sure share that. That'd be fun to jump in.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, Brandon, we'll shoot you over some of those questions. If there's anything else you'd like to add, great. We had an awesome turnout and great participation cleared throughout the end. I know we said we're going to be about 30 to 45 minutes, but typically questions, run out, and questions just kept coming for Brandon. So great stuff that he's doing off the field, obviously on the field as well. But it's just nice to get some perspective from a professional athlete or someone who we look up to as being successful in a space, and then taking that same success and bringing it over to a different space. Really fun to watch and look at. So thank you all over the world, all different times, wherever you're from. Have a great evening or morning, and be safe out there. Brandon, thank you so much for carving time out of your off-season training and workouts and teaching schedule to jump on and participate here.
Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in, and also for the great questions and all the love and appreciation. I appreciate. Looking forward to next time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.